Hey guys, welcome to another video regarding modding in Hero's Adventure Road to Passion. This time what we are going to be doing is modifying one existing manual in the game to give it some new modifiers entirely. And in the process I'll be explaining how to use dynamic modifiers in Unity. And let me tell you, dynamic modifiers are the worst thing you'll encounter. As such, I'll try to explain them. Now, first of all, I'm going to use an already existing mod to just, further modify it. It's going to be like a mod that balances all manuals, or, balances them in my opinion. So first up, we have to decide, like, first of all, if you don't have a mod, just create a new one, whatever, add the axles. What we'll need for the mod is on one hand the buff file, which is easily accessible in one, like the first file, as well as the localization, which can be found instead of folder 1, it's folder 3. And then all of these are localization, and this right here is Wugong, which is the one we need. The other file you can just ignore. And well, if we open the localization file, I've already marked it. The localization file is simply a file with text and you can freely edit it, so I'll just skip this step. But now what I've done, or the skill I've chosen, is Jolly Trident, which currently is, I don't even know how to put it, very bad. It currently, and these are already the changed values, currently inflicts 1 poison for every 10 toxicology you have. Then if you kill an enemy, you get 10% crit chance and 25% crit damage until your next action. And then you get this extra damage per poisons. And the thing is, with Spear, no other move inflicts poison or can take advantage of poison. And so you've got this issue, you need to use the skill to inflict poison to then later on benefit from it, but you can't because you have the cooldown. And now what I am tweaking it to is I am buffing the very first modifier to inflict 3 times as much poison. And since this is like an uncapped modifier as well, since you, with the toxic body and all, you could have 500 toxicology. That means you'd have a total of 150 poison you'd inflict without the injury, 300 with. You could like inflict 100 poison on an enemy easily. Then the second modifier to make this manual actually usable, this is just like more niche and just to show it off, is a modifier if you have at least 100 toxicology and are using a spear, you gain 160% final damage. 100 toxicology plays into this whole Jolly Trident, Jolly Tribe thing. Then using a spear is mostly so you could not Yuan the whole thing, but are actually playing around with spears. And then 160% damage feels decent. Now next up, what we want to do, we ignore Discord, is we go and open the buff file. And once we are in the buff file, what you want to do is find your manual, and you can do it either via the pinyin or the Chinese characters. I've already done so, let's be honest, it should be a simple task to just like Control F, search for it. And what you are looking for is your manual, followed by buff 1, buff 2, and buff 3. This one is a secondary effect from buff 2, which, it can exist, does not matter, does not influence us. The important thing is you get your 3 buffs, as you have 3 effects on your manual. And now if you scroll a bit over, what you'll find, I don't know why it's sitting right there, perfect. I don't know what's up with that. Are your dynamic modifiers. String. No clue why it's saying string now. But doesn't matter. It has no effect on us, we only care about it. And well, if we do it like that, Jolie Wucha is the opinion, you'll find the 3, in this case, dynamic modifiers the game uses on its own. And now, well, we want to change them, so I'll just pick some new amazing names. New Jolie Wucha 2, new Jolie Wucha, like 1 and 2. And now the game, once we save this Excel and add the dynamic modifiers, would use those 2 new existing ones. And that's exactly what we can now create in Unity. So what we'll do is we will head to dynamic modifiers, right click, create, woolen, and pick the top option. If you remember or have watched the AOE video, the second one is for AOEs, and the first one is to create dynamic modifiers. Now we can also copy paste in our name, and then I'll also create the second one immediately. And number 2. And now we've got these. And sadly, as you can already see, Unity is almost completely in Chinese with these modifiers, and that makes it hard to work with. I do not have it open. Obviously, I did create a chart which you could use to, well, figure out stuff. But we'll get to it in a moment. First of all, let me explain dynamic modifiers and how they work. As the first option, you have a when does it occur option. So you could be on a random map, you could be in a fight, different scenarios in which this would trigger. It basically like defines a possible trigger point for it. The second one is a condition. If you've done any programming, it's essentially an if statement. You've got if, and then for example, with our setup, it's like if 100 toxicology, and it's like true, false, you've got those statements. And that this is exactly what true and false is. This is like the condition, or this is what happens if the condition is true, and this is what happens if the condition is false. So relatively simple. So it would be for our setup, we want to modify the manual for combat, would be we want to do something in combat, we want to check if our toxicology is 100, and we want to check if we are using a spear, and if that's the case, we simply modify our damage. That's the basic setup. Now, in fact, I want to modify the second buff, which here buff 2, to be the damage, so just start with it. So this is new Jolie Wucha 2. And now when you click in on it, you get a lot of options. And a lot of them can be ignored. We mostly care about the bottom options, which are all those John Doe ones, which are in combat. And then you've got in combat internal skills. Now, obviously, we're not doing an internal skill, but rather a normal skill. And now if we think about it, when we want to apply damage, when do we do it? Is it after attacking? Is it after our whole turn? Is it after our action? Or is it perhaps before the damage calculation? And well, should be pretty obvious, we want to apply damage before our damage calculation. So we will select that and we will do it for the attacker. Because, well, the attacker is attacking and he needs the damage. And this is like the first option, that's it. For the second option, we want to add a check. In this case, it's a simple evaluation value matched condition. Easy, no tongue twist at all. And well, what it does is our true false statement. So right here you'd have a condition, and here you have the minimum and maximum value. So you could input your toxicology and be like, from 100 is fine, we need at least 100, all the way up to 9,999. There is no infinite, you could type in, just pick a big number. And now how do we address toxicology? This is also kind of annoying. You need to actually figure out the Chinese names. Now I've done like a small notepad thingy for me where I've wrote some of those down, and one of them happens to be toxicology, which is in this case first of all the user. This is simply the user of the manual. That's what those Chinese characters refer to. And then the toxicology is this, and you simply access it via a underscore. Put the whole thing in those Chinese brackets, and yeah. And now if we simply paste this in, and for good measure ×1, it helps with some things other modifiers, other values do not need it. Just put it in for good measure. We have now created a first if condition, which is if our toxicology is at least 100 up to 99,000, we can proceed. But as you've seen, we don't just have a single condition, but rather we also want to be using a spear. So what do? We add another. We simply add another. Now I can look at my chart. Here somewhere I have character weapon type. And well, I will get a different output depending on which weapon I'm using. So I can just copy it over. It's number 11. Huh? No, okay, wait. Okay, tab, it does not like tab. But there you go. Now we've got two conditions. Only if both are met will it proceed with this step. And now in this step, and first of all I gotta close my windows too small otherwise. In this step we have to select what we want to do. And for combat there are normally 3 things you'd want to apply, which is a buff to a character action, a normal prop, or a temporary prop. A buff is what you'd see in your character sheet. For example, the previous Jolly Trident did have a buff, which is the 10% crit chance, 25% crit damage after killing an enemy until your next attack. A longer lasting prop would be a status effect, like bleeding or poison, because, well, you apply it, but then it lasts longer in the fight. It's not just for like a split second. And then the one we care about right now is a temporary prop. Why temporary? Because it's only used in this damage calculation. Now next up we select who benefits from it. In this case we want to select the attacker. Then we need to select what gets modified, and well, look at my handy chart. I've got the final damage right here already. Now it's asking us, do you want to use a special formula? Yes or no? We obviously say yes. And we just have to type in a formula. Now this one, yeah, it's a bit big. This is final damage and then times a number. Now we obviously want to be using, and I think I wrote it down somewhere, we want to increase our damage by 160%, which is 1.6 in decimal value. But if you just were to type in times 1.6, you'd essentially only get 60% increased damage. So what you need to do is you add 1, and you can either do it with like brackets, like normal math rules apply, or just type in 2.6. And that's it. We have now created a modifier which checks if we have at least 100 toxicology and are using a spear. If that's the case, we get 160% increased damage. Pretty straightforward once you know what you're doing. Now we will go to our other effect, which, if you remember, depending on our toxicology, somewhere every 10 points we inflict 3 poison. So once again, like when do we inflict it? Inflict the status. I've done some examples, but if you think about it, and we pick a different status, internal injury. Internal injury reduces the enemy's defense. Would you apply a defense down before or after the calculation? Normally, if you think about it, it should be after. Because if you apply it before, you're attack already benefits from it. But theoretically, the injury should only manifest itself after you've actually attacked. The same with poison. You are stabbing the enemy with your trident, and as such, due to this like stabbing action and your weapon being coated in poison, afterwards the enemy gets poisoned. And as such, you have multiple options, and I even wrote it down. In a lot of cases, multiple ones could be used. You could say it's after the action, after damage calculation. It doesn't matter too much. So we can just like pick after the action is complete. So your whole attack has been done. That's when it would trigger. So we pick it out. It's this one. Then we add a condition again, same thing. Now what would we like to check for? And the answer is, since we need at least 10 toxicology to inflict any poison on it, we want to be somewhat efficient and say if we have less than 10 toxicology, we don't even trigger the effect. So we check our toxicology, we want it to be at least 10 and up to infinite. Now we do not have any other conditions, so we can just proceed. And this is what I said with I have to minimize it, because otherwise I can't see shit. Now, as I mentioned, the status effects are not temporary props, but rather longer lasting props. So we select this option with something buff. And it's dynamic modifier, battle actor, prop action. Now we obviously select our target again. And if you think about it, who should be the target? Should it be the attacker or the one being attacked? Should be hopefully pretty obvious that you should select the one being attacked. Next up, what do we want to inflict? And here, well, you need some knowledge, which is obtainable from a file. I probably should have mentioned this at the start of the episode, but if you actually, like when you unzip your mod editor, in this file you also have a mod editor _doc file. And in one of those there is this exact file which describes some parts of the dynamic modifier. And it also describes the different status effects. In this case we want neg poison, which no, it does not stand for negate poison, but rather a negative buff or negative debuff, negative effect poison. And you do b _ neg poison. Now you are prompted with whether you want to use the formula again. If you do not, if you, let's say, always want your attack to apply 15 poison, regardless of like any toxicology stat, anything else, any stat, just do it like this. But obviously we want to apply poison based on our toxicology. As such, what we'll do is we will do some math, I guess. We will first of all grab this again, use a toxicology. And now there's a math operation we need to do, which is this one. What it does is it divides without leaving numbers after your comma. So it like divides into whole numbers. If you divide 52 by 10 with this operation, you get exactly 5. You don't get 5.2. And well, for poison, we do not want to inflict 5.2 poison, but rather only 5 or only 6. And as such, we use this special operation. Next up, obviously, we want to inflict more than, in this case, it would be toxicology divided by 10. Poison, we want to inflict 3 times that amount, so we just do times 3. And that's it. This is like whole modifier with the condition, check your toxicology if at least 10 up to 99k. If that's true, do this, which is apply poison depending on your toxicology divided by 10 times 3. Yes, obviously with some additional rounding. I think, yeah, if you like normally have 54 toxicology, you first go times 3, and then this divided by 10 operation, you'd get 16, whereas this currently lands you at 15. Do it however you'd like. I can't be bothered. But yes, this like is your mod. And obviously, if you've not done your localization, do it now. And now we can simply build the mod and check it out in game. After all, I've copied it over. I'm even thinking about like maybe you've seen my notes, buffing that snake spear, but I have no clue how to buff it. Should I simply give it like, here you go, 150% damage on line 1, 120% damage on line 2? That feels kind of cheap. With the Jolly Trident, it was really cool, because toxicology was fitting. And now you even have the other additional damage per poison modifier, and with the higher poison per attack, that could be solid. But let's find out. And we're at 22 minutes. I hope I've explained enough for you guys as well. It was a struggle finding all of this out and like experimenting, but hopefully it should work. Now I have set up a save file as well, where I have the Slipstream Spear and the Jolly Trident learned. First of all, okay, I should have updated the description and the image, it's fine. Here you can see my mod, which I just created, it's active. If I now check out the Jolly Trident, effect 1 and effect 2 updated, as you can see. If I were to remove the mod, it would not be updated, it would be the old stuff again. And we will do the test with how much damage does the Jolly Trident deal right now, how much damage does it deal without the mod, and how much poison does it inflict. Those are, I think, the important modifiers. Obviously, I could, if I had perfect adaptation, also check if the staff condition works, but not that important to me. Yes, game, please. Yes? Sometimes when recording it's awful, and like having Unity open in general. Unity swallows RAM like nothing else. Now let's look at it. 17k. I forgot he's immune to poison. 17k. We have to check out that poison value on another enemy. I truly did not consider that. And I'll be honest, 17k is relatively low. Did something go wrong? Or is Schiffer really that tanky? If something goes wrong, it would be actually kind of cool to troubleshoot it. But let's see. Look at this. That's the old effect. Okay, something went wrong. Now we have to check out what went wrong. We did save that. Modifier 2. before damage calculation for the attacker, check if at least 100 toxicology, check if our equipment is level 11, or like rather number 11, which is correct. Modify T-Prop for the attacker. Effect damage. Do our final damage times 2.6. That is correct. Now I'm interested in seeing if the poison value worked. Sometimes I can tell you Unity has issues with exporting mods. They simply do not get updated. And since I already had an existing mod, maybe that happened. But let's check out the poison value. If not, we can also compare it with the other setups I have for the other manuals, which I know work. Ah, come on, buddy. Four poison, 4 poison. Well, we can look at this. Yes. That's the same condition. Same modifier. I have no clue right now why that would not work. Did I change this to the correct one? New Jolly Wucha 2. New Jolly Wucha 2. Then the only possibility is one of these does not wish to cooperate. But well, we'll see it with the Taos guy if we have the correct poison value. If we do not, it most likely had an issue exporting and it was not my fault. Which means I have to reload, or it's called repair DLL. I have to click that, wait for 3 minutes, and then we'll be back. Oh my. No poison at all. Okay, I have to check it out. That is surprising. To me, it feels like it's completely ignoring my 2 dynamic modifiers right now. Okay, let's attempt it now again. What I just did is I added a false case which halves my damage. So let us see if our damage is modified at all, or if I need to repair DLL. Because that is very confusing that nothing happened. I've now restarted the game, added that additional modifier like half damage in case the condition is not met. So let's throw some knives right here. $8.7k. Okay, interesting. Toxicology is at 100. And we are holding a spear. Now you have got me thinking. This better not be the case. Now let's attempt to poison the enemy after recompiling again. Sometimes it just happens with Unity that it does not work. You're confused as to why, which is obviously perfect in a tutorial. And well, the reason is Unity is messing around. I do not wish to learn from you. 12 poisoned. That looks finally good. That is 3 times 4. Okay, now I have to check. We are checking our toxicology. Times 1. At least 100, at most 999,000. We are checking our weapon type. And somewhere, like this is right here. This character right there should be spear. Jiang, spear, rifle, gun. Holder, weapon type, yeah. All I can think of is times 1. At most 11, or like minimum, maximum value 11. But we got this one. Which means one of the conditions was not met. So let's attempt it again. Sometimes you have to do troubleshooting like that. And just you wait for now the poison to not work again. Even though we've changed nothing just because it did not want to recompile. I could have sworn I said after like 22 minutes I'm done with everything. Let's get in game. And now here I am at 33 minutes. Guess the Unity is sometimes buggy and we have no clue why. Okay, we loaded or unloaded it. Load it again, modifying skills test is correct. Now if I do not see an update in Jolly Trident in here. We're restarting the game. And if after restarting the game it still does not update the lore, I have to repair DLL, recompile the mod, insert the mod, and then it will work. Wait for it. This is so bizarre though with Unity sometimes. You better show me an updated lore. Okay. I remember something like 17k. And what we have is holder weapon type. Yeah, 1. I know you can even do a holder weapon ID. And I've done that and it worked. So why is it struggling? I have 100 toxicology at least. $45K. I sometimes hate this game. It truly was this ×1. I remember when talking about toxicology, I was like, yo, add the ×1 for good measure. You see why? You see why. Perfect example. 45K, previously we were dealing roughly 17K, 17 times 2.6. That's close enough, like 17.5, imagine that. And yes, it's German, so 45, perfect. Oh my god, spending 15 minutes on debugging because A, the mod editor did not want to compile it and I missed the ×1, no. But obviously we can now delete this if false case and then we could recompile the mod. But yeah, let's go over what we did. We added a status effect, we apply it after the damage calculation because applying it beforehand could impact the damage calculation. That's like the general rule with statuses applied after your damage calculation, after your attack or after your action. Then what we're doing is checking our toxicology value. You could even, let me just like close the game. You could grab something like, oh, where are they? Your constitution. You could even go ahead, insert constitution. Instead of that, you just remove toxicology, check it at that value. You apply a status effect with your if true case, which is a prop action. On the other hand, final damage multipliers is a temporary prop, and any normal buff is like a buff. And in here we select the target who we want to apply to. As it's a debuff, we want to apply it to the enemy. We apply poison, which is a predefined variable. We do it via formula and just do some calculation with this. For damage, we apply it prior to damage calculation, as that's the only reasonable time, let's be honest. We are checking with a evaluation thing if we have at least 100 toxicology. And we are also checking with ×1 that our current martial arts, we have a like martial arts weapon is a spear, which is number 11. If that's the case, we add a temporary prop to our character, which, well, is applied to the attacker, not the character, which modifies the final damage. With this calculation, this is final damage times, in this case, 2.6. It's been almost 40 minutes, but I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into dynamic modifiers, changing a manual up, like improving it, and some debugging and, well, issues with Unity. Screw this program. But I love the game too much to actually say screw it. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next time. Bye bye.